Meanwhile, Olympic gold medalist sprinter Elaine Thompson-Herah was mistakenly blocked on Instagram, its owner Facebook Inc. has confirmed. The fastest woman in the world was blocked on Tuesday for sharing videos from her 100 and 200 metre races on her Instagram account. Her access to the app was reinstated after several hours. International Olympic Committee guidelines mandate that athletes must not post Olympic Games content containing audio and video of the sporting event or medal ceremony. So where did she stand? Was she right? Was she wrong? What can we post? What can't we post? If anybody can tell us, Steve Kuncewicz can. He's lawyer at BLM Law, specialising in intellectual property, media and communications. Hi there, Steve.
Hi, Bill.
So where exactly did she stand with this?
Well, she stood in a fairly unique place, really, in that whenever the Olympics comes to town or comes to a country, there's a lot of specific legislation around what you can and can't do with the brand, and the footage of the games is really, really tightly controlled, mainly due to the fact that they make an awful lot of their money by selling off broadcasting rights, so they control very, very carefully where official footage from the games can be shown. Now, in this particular case, the IOC have a direct relationship with Facebook, and as you said, it was her profile was suspended wrongly in their view and mistakenly and temporarily because there's an automatic takedown of any footage that they don't want up there. So it's a fairly unique situation. But normally the position is that it's only the creator of footage or any kind of content that actually has the right to post it with impunity. And normally, while there are some very narrow exceptions to that, you would have to ask permission if you wanted to share it. Now, whether or not the rights holders wanted to go against everybody that did so, however, is another issue altogether.
Right. So there's a big difference then between me with my own phone, if I'm at an event, filming it,
Yes.
sticking it up, compared with if I take something off some other platform and stick that up. The first one's okay. The second one probably isn't okay.
Well, that's exactly right. But then again, that depends on what your ticket says when you go to an event. We saw controversy a few years ago. I know it's a typical lawyer's answer. I do apologise.
No. Go on.
You know, we had Wimbledon had a problem with this in that you'd have people in the ground videoing games and then sending out pretty much as live, and people watch it that way. And again, they make a lot of their money through sponsorship and broadcasting rights. Having said that, if you're the person who takes the footage, then you own the copyright in it. So you would be the only one who could share it and exploit it however you saw fit. But whenever you're dealing with broadcasts, whenever you're dealing with big content that generates a lot of money, then the chances are how that can be used is going to be very, very heavily controlled.
Right. So presumably there are millions of times every day around the world when people are actually slightly breaking the law, but it never comes to anything. Would that be right?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, so copyright, as you'll know, as many of the listeners may know, is based on this idea of all rights reserved. As I mentioned earlier, the person who created it is the only one who can really exploit it. And if I'm a rights holder, if I control footage, then you might not want to go after everybody for sharing content. You might only want to pick the ones that could threaten your financial interest. And I think that's the decision that rights holders make. I think, again, as well, a lot of people assume that if something is posted on social media, that the original rights holder isn't bothered about it anymore, and that's normally not the case. So it's complicated. It's not the law around this hasn't particularly changed. It's just the commercial model, really, and who makes money out of it.
Yeah, well, that is so often the problem with laws, isn't it? Because the world changes and they take a long time to catch up. You'll remember, I'm sure, as I do, when you used to go to see a concert, that these very stern warnings through the sound system at the beginning to say you absolutely must not record it and all of that. And, of course, there's a sea of people with their mobile phones doing it, and these days we don't even bother with the announcements. So that is a perennial problem, the law being out of step, being behind.
Oh, it is. I mean, the law is always outpaced by tech. And I think as well, some of the trade-off that the artist that you're talking about there might be willing to make is that if people are sharing around videos of a particular gig, then someone might want to buy a ticket to another one. It's a form of viral marketing that they'd otherwise have to spend money on. So it's an awful lot of commercial checks and balances more than it is legal half the time, I think.
Yeah. So what needs to be done? Do we need to update the laws, or or can we just use our common sense and in most cases, ignore minor infringements of an outdated law, but have the law there so that when it really matters, action can be taken? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way the law's set up at the minute is to go after, say, large-scale infringers. So people like file-sharing websites where movies and music and TV can be pirated and shared more widely, for example. I think the reality of it is that the law is actually quite hard to change and make fit for the digital age. And not everybody has the time or legal budget or intention to sue every potential infringer. So you do have to pick your targets quite carefully. But a good example of this is a few years ago when copyright in relation to recordings was going to run out at a certain time, and you saw the Beatles or the surviving Beatles saying, well, we need this extended because nobody thought that their music would be available on iTunes to download. So it was changed from 50 years to 70. And the law moves pretty slowly. But when you look at Britain and when you look around the world, IP, intellectual property rights, one of the most important assets of any kind of business. And in this particular business, the IOC takes the enforcement of those rights very seriously.
Yeah, all of this stuff that we never think of as we go merrily sharing this, that and the other with our friends and the wider community. It's absolutely fascinating. One thing's for sure, you will never be out of work, Steve.
Thanks very much, Bill.
Good to talk to you. Steve Kuncewicz, lawyer at BLM Law, who specialises in intellectual property, media and communications.